BingX, a trusted global crypto exchange. Trade spot, futures, or copy top traders easily. Sign up via the link or referral code to get 30 USDT instantly, plus up to 1,500 USDT in bonuses for verification, deposit, and trading.
Colombia has recalled its ambassador to Washington, D.C., amidst an escalating war of words between Colombian President Gustavo Petro and former U.S. President Donald Trump, ignited by deadly U.S. strikes on vessels in the Caribbean. The diplomatic dispute took a dramatic turn over the weekend when Petro vehemently accused the United States of murdering a Colombian fisherman during an attack on a boat operating within Colombian territorial waters. Petro and his administration characterized the mid-September strike as a direct threat to national sovereignty, emphasizing that the victim was a lifelong fisherman and a humble human being. In a swift and forceful retort, Trump, who has consistently maintained that such strikes are crucial to interdicting drug smuggling into the U.S., labeled Petro an illegal drug dealer. He further vowed to cease U.S. aid payments to Colombia, a nation that stands as one of the largest beneficiaries of American counter-narcotics assistance. Trump also issued a directive ordering Petro to close up drug cultivation sites, warning that failure to comply would result in the United States taking action itself, and not in a nice manner. Speaking from aboard Air Force One, Trump also indicated that new tariffs on Colombian goods would be announced. This intense exchange prompted Colombia to summon its ambassador back to Bogotá for urgent consultations. The nation's interior minister, Armando Benedetti, described Trump's remarks as a threat of invasion or military action against Colombia. President Petro, in turn, asserted that Colombia's protracted five-decade conflict was fundamentally rooted in cocaine consumption in the United States, while simultaneously claiming that American contributions in recent years have been meager and null. Analysts are sounding the alarm, warning that this public feud represents one of the most significant ruptures in relations between these long-standing allies in recent memory, casting a dark shadow over the future of security and counter-narcotics cooperation. This volatile situation unfolds at a particularly critical juncture for Colombia, a nation currently grappling with its most severe security crisis in a decade. However, Colombia has shown no signs of capitulation, with its Ministry of Foreign Affairs stating that Trump's pronouncements contain a direct threat to national sovereignty by proposing an illegal intervention in Colombian territory. The deterioration of relations is not entirely unprecedented, with ties having previously soured at the onset of Trump's first term. Shortly after his inauguration, Colombia initially resisted accepting military flights carrying deportees, a stance that led the U.S. president to threaten tariffs and sanctions. Months later, Washington revoked Petro's visa after he encouraged U.S. soldiers to defy Trump's orders during a pro-Palestine rally in New York, urging them to disobey the orders of Trump. Obey the orders of humanity. In a significant development in September, the U.S. declared Colombia to be failing to meet its international drug control obligations, a decertification that marked the first time in nearly 30 years. Colombia holds the distinction of being the world's foremost producer of cocaine, with the cultivation of the coca bush, the raw material for cocaine, reaching an unprecedented high last year, according to United Nations data. Bogotá maintains that the prevailing militarized war on drugs has proven ineffective, highlighting that its own domestic policies have resulted in record levels of drug seizures. Despite the rebuff of decertification, the White House had stated in September that it would continue providing funding and security assistance to Colombia, deeming the partnership vital to the national interests of the United States. This commitment appears to have shifted dramatically this past weekend, with Washington now threatening significant cuts to aid. The precise nature and extent of these potential cuts remain unclear, especially considering that the U.S. administration had already implemented some funding reductions earlier this year. According to the Washington Office on Latin America, a respected research organization, Colombia had been slated to receive over $400 million in aid at the beginning of the year. However, prior reductions left the nation with approximately a quarter of that amount. U.S. figures indicate that Colombia received an estimated $230 million in the U.S. fiscal year ending September 30th, a stark decrease from the over $700 million received in recent years. Elizabeth Dickinson, a senior analyst for the Andes region at the International Crisis Group, emphasized that the impact of further aid cuts would be gigantic, extending far beyond mere financial implications. She underscored the profound interconnectedness of the institutional relationship, where security forces operate in a daily tandem, coordinating closely, and constantly sharing intelligence to undertake operations that benefit both nations. Dickinson further cautioned that this rupture is occurring at a particularly perilous moment, as Colombia confronts the worst security crisis it's seen in probably a decade, amid a burgeoning threat from armed and criminal groups. Jimena Sanchez Garzoli, Walla's Andes director, echoed these concerns, stating that tensions have entered dangerous territory. She warned that as Colombia stands as the most crucial ally to the U.S. in counter-narcotics efforts, it is profoundly counterproductive to aggressively attack such an ally and to further slash funding. President Petro, Colombia's first leftist leader, has been vocal for weeks in his criticism of U.S. strikes on boats in the Caribbean, actions that have also drawn scrutiny from legal experts who have deemed them unlawful. Naval vessels, fighter jets, and drones have been deployed in what the U.S. describes as an armed conflict against drug cartels. Reports indicate that at least 7 U.S. strikes have occurred in the region since early September, resulting in the deaths of at least 32 individuals. U.S. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth claimed that one strike last week targeted a boat linked to the National Liberation Army, or ELN, a Colombian rebel group, though no concrete evidence was provided to substantiate the assertion. President Petro condemned the bombing, stating that the boat belonged to a humble family. In a new development, survivors were reported from another strike last week, with 2 men, 1 Colombian and 1 Ecuadorian, repatriated on Saturday. Trump asserted that U.S. intelligence had confirmed the vessel was loaded up with mostly fentanyl and other illegal narcotics. Analysts have pointed out that while Colombia is a major producer of cocaine, the trafficking of fentanyl is primarily